So we'll go ahead and get started. So the Game Developers Conference has been going on. It was originally the Computer Game Developers Conference, CGDC, in the late 80s. I started going to it back in 92. It was still under 1,000 people. Now it's 24,000 people. It really is the biggest game dev event. Who's heard of GDC before this? All right, I think he gets the internet mints. So what you see on this table is a whole bunch of swag from all sorts of different companies. Internet is a server farm company. They provide the giant data centers for people. They're there in force because obviously games are now one of the big things driving that. So what we're going to talk about today are all these different companies. You've seen all the different events we went to. Probably Molly will talk about all the cool parties she went to. And give you the highlights, because one of the great things about GDC is that it is an insight into where the industry will be next year. Some people say really it's an insight into where the industry was last year, because everybody's kind of building on last year's successes, but there's enough to see that it'll let you know where the industry is going. So Joe was actually the first of us to go out there. GDC is structured, wait a minute, you came out earlier too, didn't you?
Sunday.
Wow, she beat you, man.
No, she didn't.
When did you come?
Saturday.
Dang.
I was eating roast beef by the time you arrived.
So GDC is structured where they have the big in-depth summits and tutorials before the main conference starts. And Joe actually went out for mainly the indie game summit.
Yeah,
You want to talk a little bit about that? Because those tend to be some of the best info.
Yeah. It wasn't as strong as it's been in the past. In fact, a couple of things got pointed out. They really blew it on a few levels this year. I'm just going to tell you one negative one that came out. There were no individual women speaker at the entire event. There were some panels, and there were some great, what do they call them, the rants.
Right. Rants is what they call them.
Yeah, and actually the rants is one of my favorite things, which is instead of one person talking for either half an hour or sometimes even longer, they'll have 10 people talk 5 minutes each and give these quick rant things. The thing I get out of it the most is basically listening to both success and failure stories from the indie people. It's just more information.
So what was the best success or failure story? Who told the best story? What was it?
The Threes guy was okay.
What did he say?
Maybe he affected me. Well, the Threes guy was interesting. I'll get into a rant. One of the things I both love and hate about the GDC is I'm an indie that kind of hates pretentious indies. So there's a part of the indie community that's like, thinks games has to be high art and, can a pixel make you cry kind of thing. And I'm a business guy first. I feed my family. And I do creative stuff, a lot of it. But I do not sweat over a design decision for days and weeks. And you hear stories of these people that do that. The Threes guy was very interesting in that he spent a lot of time debating over something that was pointless. And in my mind, if I could talk to him, it would be, you should have noticed that was pointless earlier. And his game mechanic is kind of cool, and there's other games that have sprung up and sort of ripped it off, but he missed the importance of his key idea, actually, and obsessed over all this other stuff. And again, the indies love him because Threes is supposedly this work of art, whereas 2048 is this crass, simple game. But it's like somebody complaining that Candy Crush sucks because Bejeweled came first or Jewel Quest came first. And Jewel Quest made Bejeweled harder, and then Candy Crush said, let's make it fun again for everybody. And indie people, if you say, hey, we want to make a game that's fun for everybody, the indie people will go, oh no, not everybody can understand art.
So now you know what the GDC rants are like. And the rants are actually really cool. They have education rants, design rants, writing rants. We need to have a Joe rant set up out there as well.
Oh, one last thing. Actually, the best talk, and I actually told him this in person, and then nobody talked to him afterwards, was actually Mr. Greenberg's brother. His talk on writing. I can't remember the name. Yeah, narrative. It was just really good. Excellent, start to finish.
That's because you didn't come to my session. So Molly actually went out there for a very specific reason in addition to GDC. Molly works with the IGDA Scholars. You want to talk about that?
So I also work here in Atlanta, but with the IGDA Scholarship Program is where I spend some of my volunteer time. And what I do is, the IGDA Scholarship Program is for people, like students who are still in college. You can be a master's, PhD, undergrad, doesn't matter, as long as you're still in college, and you don't even have to be on a games track, although it's kind of weird when you're not. Why? But what we do is we send students to conferences, such as GDC or E3. Sometimes we do other ones, it kind of depends on how successful they were. And we send them out there, they get like full access passes, we do studio tours, we went to 3 Rings, Double Fine, we did Q&A sessions. Genova Chin was one of our Q&A sessions, Warren Spector, and it gives them an opportunity to network, but it also gives them an opportunity to maybe get out there, which is an expensive endeavor for anyone, not just a student. And it's expensive for me, it's expensive for all of us. And so having programs like this really helps. Being a part of communities like the IGDA and GGDA is what is going to get you out to conferences. Just a little spiel on that.
And they also got to go to the Blizzard party, apparently.
Yeah, that wasn't like an actual thing for scholars. I think
They all just snuck in. Apparently they were welcome there one way or another. Yeah, so I ran into the scholars. There was an IGDA. Who knows what the IGDA is? I saw a hand go up over there first. Whose hand went up? You're about to get a Unity button. All right, well, it's coming back there, so somebody gets it. I missed the eye. I'm sorry. I'll get an eye eventually. So the IGA is the National Game Developers Association. Many of us are members of it. I work with it. Molly works with it. Joe's been very supportive of it over the years locally. So the IGA has set up this Scholars Program, and it's not just for the Game Developers Conference. It will also get you into E3. Do you know what the other events are that it'll get you into?
It changes every year. Sometimes we do Develop, which is in Brighton. It's a smaller conference, but only kind of the big names go there, and it's in England. We accept a lot of international students, not just people in America. So it largely depends on if we can get the students there and if we get passes to it. But we're looking at, we just got in contact with IndieCade, so that's something that may happen in the future.
So we've had a number of Georgia students who have been part of that, or Schuler's there this year, I believe, and there have been others. And so it is something that's available for you if you want to go to E3, GDC, and not just to get you there, but it really gets you in the back door so you can sneak into the Blizzard parties. Shall we start talking about the parties? Who wants to talk about their favorite parties first? You can go to any. I invited you to dinner. All right, Molly, talk about the parties.
Don't you want me to talk about signs?
So some people go to the outrageous ones. I kind of don't like to go to like there was one called the AT&T Blowout Party where they rented out a stadium and they had
baseball field out there, AT&T Park out there.
Yeah, and that's had some controversy over the past few years. They had 12,000 people this year, and I kind of did not want to do that. Instead, I went to what's called the Wild Rumpus Party, which if you're in the indie game scene is kind of the indie party. And now they have the Mild Rumpus Party, which is a more low-key version. So depending on how low-key you want to go or how kind of out there you want to go, it depends on, if we're going to talk about networking at parties, the real thing there is parties are not that easy to network at. A lot of people say parties are great for networking, and I agree, but if it's really loud, you're not really going to get much networking done. And if you're there to actually network, that's kind of a weird way to approach it. It's more like make friends and don't try to ask for jobs, because it doesn't work. That's all I have for that.
All right, I do go to those other parties, so I had to miss the AT&T Blowout, 12,000 people by Gettysburg. I ended up going to Gettysburg thing Friday night, finally, kind of an after-hours event. But I do enjoy networking at the parties. You kind of have to know how to do it, and you just talk to everybody, because you have no idea what amazing person you will meet there, and that happens to me every time. Just sort of sticking out my hand and shaking people's hands, and I start meeting all kinds of incredible people. This year, the Unity party was fabulous, even though we got busted on our way there. The Uber car we were taking had a headlight out, so my first Uber ride, we got pulled over. But the parties are actually good ways to meet people if you're willing to go ahead and mix and move through the crowd and talk to folks. On the opening, on the Tuesday night, before it all starts, the IGDA throws a very large party. They rented out the Child Museum there, and with the IGDA you'll get a lot of students, but you also get a lot of pros in the industry who will show up, as well as all the IGDA leadership, which really are some of the leading pros in the business. So they had a lot of games set up there for people to show off, and that kind of rolled all through the week of all these different companies throwing really good events to bring people out. Cartoon Network throws an event out there. They fly everyone out from Atlanta to throw their party out there. The state of Georgia does have a dinner there, so if you're out there next year, you can join us for that. Most of the parties will be on Wednesday night, because Thursday is when the big boys throw their parties, Electronic Arts, the Sonys, etc. And those are, people don't want to compete with them, so many folks will be at those parties. But parties are also a good place to get swag, but they're better a place to go ahead and meet folks. So every panelist want to grab something and throw it at somebody in the audience? Come on, Joe, grab something. Oh man, that's a
Car charger.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm putting stuff out here to show off. We'll go with the high voltage software 10. Big 10. All right.
Who wants a magic 8 ball?
Oh, you're the assistant zombie act. This is a good one. Oh, you're one of the best prizes up there. Okay. You came closer to taking out alive than I have. All right. Now, officially, the reason we go to GDC is for the sessions. There's a lot of good ones. Man, hey, baseball team here. The Flying Phoenixes or something. This one's good. I forgot what that was. That's from the space people, the private spaceship company. So I'm going to jump. I was going to talk about the sessions. Let's talk about the expo hall, because that's one thing that you guys will be very interested in. Who is hiring out there? The company that I was most amazed to see hiring out there was SpaceX. Who knows what SpaceX is? What's SpaceX? You're going to rank up on stuff.
Elon Musk company, he makes rockets.
He's making the private industry rocket ships. The people who are making rocket ships for private industry, you get the SpaceX luggage tag, which doesn't fly very well on its own. So yes, SpaceX is there hiring game developers to work on the software for their spaceships. They had a rocket engine in their booth. So one of you want to name a company in the expo hall, in the hiring hall that you were impressed by?
I can name some that were hiring a lot of people.
Riot was actually hiring a lot of people.
Who knows what game Riot publishes? You already got stuff. You already got stuff. You have it. All right, have the Riot light up. Something or other. See, it's lit. Here, pass this back.
More importantly, please don't leave a banner.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of good people to Riot. Riot's been hiring out of Atlanta like mad. So they've been grabbing for folks left and right. Let's see, what other companies were out there?
I talked to Marmalade. Marmalade's, okay, so I still use an editor called VI. Does anybody even know what VI is?
It's an art school.
You know what VI is. Anyways, VI is an editor from Unix early days, and that's what I still use. And Marmalade is basically it does what Unity does without a really cool 3D environment. So it gives you all these tools and stuff, but you're not really doing a WYSIWYG. You're doing low level, it's all C++, and they may even port some of I talked to them about, they may port my little, it's SDL. Does anybody know what SDL is? Simple Direct Mediator. Anyways, they may port that to try to work under Marmalade, which if they do that, then I can get my game on tablets and other things without, spending a lot. And for Unity port, it's just going to be, it's much more ported, or whatever. Anyways, I talked to Marmalade. I talked to Amazon because I sell my game on Amazon. You're sticking with hiring right now. You don't want to talk about the other
No,
part
we'll
of
go to
it.
the rest of the expo hall after.
Okay.
Amazon just hired some great game designers. Kim Swift. Who else recently got hired? They've hired some big name game devs just recently.
Yeah, Amazon was really cool. About 3 guys talked to me for, I don't know, about 20 minutes. I think they were bored. But well, the cool thing about Amazon, with at least me, they're the ones who actually sent me to Marmalade, because I talked to them first about possibly, I talked to them about how to get more marketing from them, actually. And they said you have to have a good story. And they basically made the case that if I port my game to Unity, that's not a story. But if my game gets ported through Marmalade, that's a story that they'll be interested in telling. And they'll tell it with the guys from Marmalade that'll do it. So they sent me over to Marmalade, and I thought they were just blowing smoke, but I went over there and the guy was like, yeah, we'll do that. So it was very cool.
Yeah, so a lot of different companies are there. One company that was out there hiring was this one, Facebook. So it's a wide variety. So a lot of additional companies are out there. Blizzard, Activision always has area out there. Insomniac's always hiring. That's right. That's right. This was the Machine Zone. I believe I got this in the hiring hall. We're giving this one out like one of the last prizes. That's right. The Boffer weapons get given out late. But a lot of different companies. And Joe, if you had hold up that to the left of that one. No, the one that says who's hiring. There we go. So if you want to know who's hiring, I've handed this off to Professor Cunningham, as well as folks in your office, and they will have access to this. We've got one answer up here. Did I tell you Dee's flying out to California tomorrow? I'm sorry. So if you want to look at this one, you're welcome to. Professor Cunningham has one, and it gives a good list. Hand it to me really quickly. Let me leave somebody off of it. Ubisoft has a big ad on the back. Heroes Wanted. I've got a former student I used to teach at AIA Dunwoody who works for Ubisoft now. Oh yeah, Tripwire. Our own local Tripwire has a big ad in this one. And I was actually hoping 2 of their folks would be here tonight. I don't know where, they don't have traffic to blame. Anyway, all right, so that's hiring. So let's talk about the other cool things you saw in the expo hall. What were the other really cool, oh, Joe's got one. Cool things in the expo hall.
A bunch of New York students that were all showcasing cool games. Little game jam games. But there were a couple that were really awesome. I also got to see my alma mater has a company out there called First Playable, and they did it was a spelling game, and it actually was fun on the tablet. So I was surprised because historically spelling games are fair, but this was actually was quite good. But the most interesting was these 2 students who, when I saw this game, I said, oh, that's a really cool variation on kind of Osmos, which I don't know if you're familiar with the game called Osmos. If you're not, go look it up sometime. But they turned to me and went, oh yeah, we went to he was in our class. So it was, but it was still a nice variation, and there's something to be said for good variations that are simple and fun. So.
Yeah, a lot of colleges have booths there. They give their students a place to showcase their work to the pros. The pros walk through and see what interests them out there. So it's also a great way for you guys to look at what your future competition is doing. You have one?
Sure. There was a lot of virtual reality technology, like half the floor, just different companies showcasing different, I don't even just mean the Oculus, they obviously had a big portion, and everyone knows that Facebook acquired Oculus shortly after GDC, which was bad timing for people that pushed Facebook games at that time. They got a lot of negative press for that. But so and everyone has their opinions on Facebook acquiring Oculus. We won't talk about that. But
So what's your favorite VR?
there was this cool contraption that you put your body into, so you can slide and walk around at the same time. I don't know what it's called. Did you see that?
I did see. I forget which company that was. There were all sorts of VR stuff up there.
There were headsets, handsets, everything. There were guys, my favorite was guys that were swinging their arms back and forth to battle the dummies and so on. Yeah, VR was everywhere this time around. The other thing I like is how the game industry has so many companies we don't think of as game companies are out there. Obviously the Facebooks. Microsoft has a huge presence out there. They've got their own program book of Microsoft events. You can go attend your Unity Game in More Hands, how to build for Windows and Windows phones, Platform Play, the mobile challenge of Halo Spartan Assault, let's see, DirectX, Direct 3D Futures, ID at Xbox, Smart Glass and cross-screen applications for Xbox One, or leveraging external programming for Forza Motorsports. Tons of sessions they do there. But so we think of these companies, we think of the Congregates. Who here is a Congregate fan? Who's got a Congregate account here? All right, let's throw something at you. Here, MedApps gets to wash your hands. Wow, you guys are good at catching things I try and take out of us with. But it's the companies we don't always think of. I spent a lot of time talking to the Pandora guys. Pandora was at a big booth out there. I've got several flyers from them about how they're trying to they're looking to work with game designers, essentially, in a lot of different ways. If you are developing your own games, there are a lot of different companies out there. App Annie is a good example of one who can help you get apps or games on up there. Qualcomm. Who knows what Qualcomm is? Big, what are they?
Snapdragon. Processors.
Yeah, they make big phones and processors and stuff. These guys are Harvard. They have a huge area. They rented out this whole section of it just to push everything they can do to figure out, here, have a smart wallet. It's the mobile card holder. Yeah, it goes on the back of your phone, holds business cards. Handy for events like this, the smart wallet. Yeah, he's got one, but not from Qualcomm. Who did you get yours from?
Who spoke a week ago, whatever. CTEII?
War game event stuff.
CTIA?
So the expo hall, huge area, just all these different companies. Most of this stuff comes from Unity's got a huge booth. Canada had a booth. Someone's going to get a Moose bottle opener at some point. Yeah, Canada was in the house.
Also, just, I mean, this applies to me, it might apply to some people. There's companies that don't represent out there, like they don't have booths, but they're out there so you can still do meetings. Often they have a floor of a hotel and you set up a meeting ahead of time. A few years ago I did Microsoft, but I haven't done them in a few years. I usually stick with my distributors, but that's just another thing. So even if their presence isn't there, and actually that kind of tells you something. If a company presence used to be there, and now they're not there, but they still take meetings, you might not want to meet with them.
So another event I attended there is called Game Connection America, where dozens upon dozens of publishers and well over 100 developers were there just basically speed dating. Here's my game, here's how we publish, how do you want to work? So this is another thing we want to consider. If you have your own game going out and I guess let's get you to it. So, all right, now we'll get to the actual meat of it, which are the sessions themselves, where the educational part of it happens. The GDC is structured in many ways like our own Siege conference, where they have tracks for art, programming, design, audio, business side. What are some of the other tracks that they had this year? I passed around the advocacy. Yes, the advocacy track. So I'll go ahead and start talking on this one. I actually ran the IGDA advocacy session. We were trying to teach game developers to be better spokespeople for their own industry. We are a well-developed industry. We're well over $25 billion a year just in the United States itself. There's no reason for anyone to feel embarrassed about the industry they work for, no matter what lies people say about the industry. So we actually had a whole session on how to speak well for the industry, how to be a good face for the industry, and where to find the facts you need in dealing with it. There's some great representatives, the vice president from the Entertainment Software Association out there to speak, a number of reps from a lot of the other companies. So that's something we're moving forward with is more advocacy training. Either of you want to talk about sessions that you enjoyed?
I went to what's called the Number One Reason to Beat panel, which was absolutely my favorite panel there. Yeah, if any of you follow women's issues in games, that it's kind of about that, but it's more about why women want to be in games and what they like about games instead of all the negative that's associated with being a woman in games. It was really empowering, and it had some of the speakers that we're used to seeing, and also introduced some kind of speakers that I had never heard of before. Brenda Bradford was there, if you guys know who she is. But then there were also some students on the panel, I think, as well. Or grad students, maybe?
I think they were all over. They were awesome. They just,
Yeah, it was
tears, people
it
crying,
was great.
applauding, standing out. It was great.
Yeah, so just kind of if you do ever go to GDC, and I know that you want to learn a lot too about kind of what you're interested in, if it's art or design, but take some time out to also focus on kind of the issues that are associated with the game industry and making the industry a better place.
And these sessions are actually online. If you look at that book and you decide you're interested in that, GDCvault.com. So who has one of the flyers right now of what the programs were? Those two little pamphlets I was sending around. Where have they gone? All right, we've already got a goodie. I was just going to make sure if people hadn't seen it, they could keep passing. Where's the other one? There's one on this side, there's one on that side. Oh, okay. Wow, has everyone seen them essentially?
I haven't.
You haven't? If someone can pass them over that way. And here, I'll give you a pen in case, there we go. I'm telling you, that eye's coming out at some point. I personally spent a lot of my time at the round tables at GDC, which is where you get to talk one-on-one with the big developers on all the different games and like. So there are indie games round tables. There are round tables on programming, on art, on artificial intelligence. I even went to one on what's called real money gaming, which is basically the gambling games, because the gambling industry really hires a lot of game developers. You might think you're looking to Activision stuff, but it's the same skill set that Bally, Williams, and all the big gaming companies are looking for. So it's another place to look to use your skills down the line.
Right, they were out there too. Yeah.
Right.
Valley was that big.
All the big casino companies that you think, I think I saw Harrah's on the floor, which was the first time I'd ever seen that. So Harrah's, you know, is North Carolina casinos and all that, but they're all sort of trying to do more mobile. And if there is more online poker, they're going to be hiring game developers like mad to make all of those. So I love these roundtables. Great chance to sit around and actually pick the brains of the main developers themselves. But the art panels there can be fantastic. Just beautiful art, great technique on how to do it. And if you love to use toys like Wacom tablets and the like, the vendors are out there showing it non-stop. Not only do you have panels to see it, but they'll have it in their booth, and you can talk to the people who make these things as to the best way to use their hardware. You have any other sessions that you wanted to talk about? Any other?
No, there was just one cool idea. This wasn't the, correct me if I'm wrong. There was another panel of about 10 people that got 5 minutes each, but they did this constraint where they had, I think, 12 slides, 6 seconds a slide. And they basically, they set up the slides, but I mean, they can't ramble, they can't do anything. They just have to keep up with their own slides. And that was pretty cool, as just an exercise of how to compact information.
Gamifying presentation?
Yeah, in a sense. That's what I really liked. And there was also this one guy, I can't think of it. So if you like Indy the movie, okay, and you like game programmers that have mental breakdowns, then you can always find at least 2 or 3 sessions that will satisfy that craving. There was a guy who spent a couple of years at a very successful game, and I can't think of the name of the game right now. It was almost a geometry game where, I'm sorry, but anyways, he told his story, and you know, I tears. I mean, he's as crazy as anybody in the indie game of the movie, but very successful, and it's heartening to see, you know, somebody who just loves their art, right? As much as I slam the indie pretentiousness, okay? There's a different side of that pretentiousness, which is just the desire. And to see that's what you get out of GDC. That's the thing I come away with. You even get, you get students that are out there that they found a way, right? They're sleeping at some hostel, and they may have volunteered the year before, they may have not, they may have paid, whatever. But they're there just because they love games. They eat, drink, breathe, bleed games. And there is that level for me, as much as I thought the conference this year was not as good as last year, it still invigorates me, and it's that type of stuff that you just get everywhere.
That's actually how I was going to end this. What was your favorite takeaway from GDC? What was the thing that you had seen that excited you most? I was going to go with one Joe just said. The one thing about GDC that's very true, and the reason I've been going to it since it was CGDC back in 1992, is whenever you leave, you are filled with that desire to get back to making games. You have just so many ideas, so much you just want to do. It's what we try and do essentially with Siege, and I'm glad to hear we accomplish so often. People come to Siege, and they leave, and that Monday they're getting right back into their games, and they just want to be making things again. That's always been my favorite part. The other thing I was going to say this year, which doesn't directly contradict Joe, but a little bit, is that this year it was bigger than in past years. And there was more optimism than we had in the past couple of years.
It was
People,
more optimistic, I agree with that.
yeah, people were very excited about the new console machines. People were really excited about all the apps, all the app platforms. A number of these things out here are from people who just want to put your game up on their portal or support you getting it out onto the mobile stuff and do whatever they can to help you with it. Now, they might not be the best people to help you with it, but there are a lot of people who want to take that role now. And the interest from them was phenomenal. And there were a lot of folks who were looking to get in the industry, had been in the industry, and people seem to have a lot more enthusiasm going in as well as more coming out. Molly, you want to hit us your favorite takeaway from it?
I guess use your time wisely if you go to conferences. I set up a bunch of one-on-one meetings when I was in between sessions and then allocated time for getting to and from different places. Don't waste your time out there. Don't sleep in if you can. Get up early. If you stay out late, just try to use your time wisely. And my biggest takeaway from that was you'll get a lot more done. I got work, some additional contract work coming back here, but because I went out there and showed myself. And I think that's really important.
One of the bad things about GDC is it's a 4-hour flight away to San Francisco. One of the good things is you have 4 hours to sleep on the way back. So you really don't have to sleep that entire week. It's completely secondary to it. All right, so I think we're at about a quarter till. So we always open up for questions. This session's a little differently because this time questions get rewarded not just with answers, but we save the best swag for last, including the zombie outbreak gummy brains. It's definitely one of my favorites. 2 hours of dirt choke. Hey! Put my brains in your pants. I swear. So, we will be rewarding. Oh, hey, we get this giveaway. Oh, wait, that's Molly's phone. So, you can ask questions about GDC, about the sessions we attended. I sent around a flyer. You can ask us to give you more information on specific companies, and we'll reward you with the cool swag that's still left. So, go ahead.
One question was for her when you talked about the scholarship. How do you apply on what website?
That's a great question. Would you repeat that question? And you get the gummy brain, because that was the smartest question we've had yet. And the first.
His question was, how do you apply to be an IGDA scholar?
Yeah.
And it's scholars.igda.org, I think. But you can just go to Google and type in IGDA scholarships, and it's the first thing that comes up. More importantly, you can't apply for E3 anymore, it closed. But we'll have more conferences, and obviously next year. GDC is the big one, so if you're going to apply to it. IGDA scholarships. Scholars.igda.org is what I think the website is. But more importantly, it's the International Game Developers Association.
And while you're up there, there's also a survey the IGDA is currently doing. I think it's still up there on industry developer satisfaction. So for those of you who are working in the industry, go up there, fill in the survey, trying to get as many folks we can, get a real sense of the industry. All right, question in the back.
When you were at the conference, did Microsoft release any information on whether they were going to be talking about developing for the Xbox One yet, for independent developers?
Oh yeah, ID at Xbox. Do you guys know about ID at Xbox?
I'm familiar with it, but they are not like actually letting people get their hands on the development kits yet.
They are.
They are
You
now?
have to apply for ID at Xbox. I can't remember the site. It's probably on one of these things. The one requirement that they have is that you have to have released an Xbox game, or a console, not Xbox game already. Although, depending on what your team members are like, if you have team members that have worked on previous Xbox games, I'm sure you can kind of get that way.
Okay.
I mean, I can't speak for them, but I know a lot of people that have been through this process.
Right.
The problem right now is that Xbox dev kits are kind of way behind production. They haven't been able to send them all out. They're about, I think it's 2.5 months behind now.
Oh, wow.
So you can apply for it, and it definitely, you have to have done an Xbox game, but it might be a while if you're not a big name at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, how indie is indie is kind of more how they're approaching it. But
Okay. Thank you.
And for that great question, you get a Windows Phone pen.
Cool.
And I finally get a chance to take the eye out. Thanks, Bill. All right, question here.
Following up on that last one, is it just Xbox games, or could it be Microsoft in general? Because
could publish to their like app marketplace.
Were you at our meeting at Microsoft last month?
No.
Why weren't you at the meeting at Microsoft last month?
I have a partner filling in for me today. So that's on here.
Alright.
Come on up. You get to say your favorite thing you saw at GDC.
What's that?
You get to tell everyone your favorite thing you saw at GDC.
I saw Andrew.
And I'm always everybody's favorite thing, which is why he didn't come to my session. So Ken, you want to tell them who you are and we didn't introduce you. Molly, while he comes up here, introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. I'm Molly Profit. I am a game designer and producer here in Atlanta, Georgia. I worked with Thrust Interactive for 2 years, and I still work with them part-time. And I'm also making an indie game on the side called Snap.
Want to say the best thing you saw out there?
You mean beside you?
Oh, that was many inside.
My name is Ken Leitner. I'm a senior programmer at CCP Games. Let's see, the best thing I saw there, Havoc demo, where they claim to be 3 or 4 times as fast as PhysX.
Yeah, Ken gets invited to those really cool secret meetings where the hardware folks come out and demo the ultra fun stuff. And I guess apparently software developers too come out and show off their most awesome bits.
Just did PhysX this year.
Just PhysX. So we did a quick talk on basically favorite sessions, favorite thing, most interesting thing in the hiring hall, most interesting thing on the expo floor. You want to talk about the most interesting thing you saw on the expo floor?
There was the expo floor.
Other than the CCP party.
So also, yeah, it's a CCP party. The Rad Games tools had a new tool out called Oodle, which is their network streaming and Final I/O library, which I plan on checking out a little further. The other thing we saw there that was pretty interesting that I think would be very useful for indie developer is City Engine. City Engine is it's actually a tool that was used by Pixar in some of their movies, but what it does is just creates a random cityscape, and it looks to do a very good job of it. I'm sure there was a lot of legwork behind the demo they did, but it was pretty impressive.
And it's good for huge, doesn't get all your processor speed.
What it does is generate geometry, so you still got to render it.
Favorite party?
Havoc. No, really, the NVIDIA CCP party was pretty epic, but as a game developer, I'm kind of geeky, and hanging out in a little Irish pub with some game developer playing the music, that was a little bit more my speed.
Did any of you go to the awards? That's one thing I meant to bring up, and I missed the awards this year.
Was that the day everything was going on?
That's the day everything was
No, I
going
went
on.
to
It was-
Dallas.
Did you? Yeah, she was at a Valve party. Yeah. So there are big awards there too, and there are really cool awards. We just none of us went. So what was the night CCP at this party? Thursday or Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday night. Wednesday was the awards. Wednesday was CCP. Wednesday was Unity party.
Really, it was the NVIDIA party.
All right. So any last questions? Yes, you have a question.
I have 2.
All right.
One, can we talk about the PowerPoint?
If you guys have seen have anyone heard of Free to Play the movie?
Yes.
It was their premiere. They had like a VIP free premiere party thingy. It was cool. It was fun. I don't know. I just go and hang out.
Oh my god.
It's already out. You can get it on Steam.
Yes.
Or free. You get the canned bottle opener for that one.
Oh.
No.
Anyone talks about the Valve party gets the bottle opener. What was your second question? What was the second question?
The explosions? No.
Do you have a second question?
I forgot in the midst of it.
Must have been really important.
Okay.
I'm ready, man.
The VR stuff, like, apparently everything was cool, but was there anything like on the level of like the Virtual Boy or something you just, frowned upon?
there was, the things I saw were good. The question is how will they actually be implemented when they're out and in the store. So there was one group that was not even in the hall. They're out on the street demoing their stuff in tents. And they had this long line to show off things behind there. And it's this nice looking...
VR.
Right. Nice looking, inexpensive drink. It's just when they actually try and put this out on the streets and sell these, what's going to happen? They felt like they'd be flimsy, and that's one of my main fears on VR stuff. How easily does it break or break you? And I did not see a single piece of VR equipment that didn't look promising, but all of it also looked questionable. How well is it actually going to get across? I remember when they first had the mind controller there, where you would put the diodes on your head. It would tell you to think up. You would think up, and when you thought up, the spaceship would launch. When you stopped thinking up, it would come back down. That was the first time it really blew my mind. Things like that. But now it's just will it actually pull off? Anyone else want to comment on VR? Come on, you guys are obviously doing the leading. You are doing the cutting edge work on VR right now. So what can you say that's not under NDA?
They're doing all that work in Newcastle, so I'm not.
Have you played around with the Valkyrie Oculus setup?
I haven't played with the Valkyrie, but Adam at our office,
right?
He's doing a little indie thing, and he brought it in one day.
Right. So for those who don't know, CCP has one of the premier VR. Is it a full game yet, or is it still just a demo?
So far it's a demo, but it's supposed to be a full game.
Yeah, flying these spaceships using the VR headsets.
They're doing like I guess, Wing Commander.
Right, I haven't gotten to try it yet. Apparently even the guys who work there haven't gotten a chance to try it yet, but the videos on it are cool. All right. All right, I'm back.
Are there any workshops, courses, or schools that you guys like recommend for people who want to like improve on older skills and develop newer skills?
Yeah, they're called the tutorials, tutorials and summits. And if you go next year, you can actually get a tutorials and summits pass,
Which is cheaper than the main pass.
yes. So if you don't want to go for the whole conference and you just want to learn, that's what I would do. And they're on the vault too, right? I think they are. I think the only thing not on the vault is the round tables because they're more personal and one-on-one. But
We dished dirt at those.
yeah. So they're not going to record that. But yes, if you want to access it online, you can go to the vault, and then if you go next year, get
Could
it.
you give me the web address or like
Did I throw
a
that pen out? Who got that pen I threw out that has the vault address?
Is it this?
That looks like it.
Thank you.
So one of the interesting things about schools there's a lot of schools are out there recruiting game developers either as teachers or for their postgraduate programs. So I know AIA does not have a graduate degree, but if you're interested in continuing education, there are a lot of schools now that do that. All right, this question over here, yes.
Y'all talk about parties and everything, but what would be the best place for students like us when we actually graduate to network? Because we can't really network at parties, but you said you'll better off not a good idea, but what would be a good idea for us to network? Where should we network?
Do we want to turn this into a how to network appropriately?
Yeah, let's do a minute on how to network.
So there's like things to do and things not to do. And as far, there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with saying you're a student and because and I made this mistake too because I went through the GGDA scholarship program a couple of years ago. And I was like, when I was out there, I felt that I was ashamed that I was a student, and you shouldn't be. Because there's people that want students to come into their more incubator programs and entry-level positions. There's nothing wrong with that. And then in terms of networking at parties, it's just a hard atmosphere to do it. You're not going to pull out your portfolio in the middle of a place where there's like, like you're not going to do it. Like it's just, yeah, it's just a bad atmosphere. But you can get business cards and follow up and say who you are.
Yeah, I mean, none of these events are hiring events. They have the hiring hall for that. But the secret of getting hired in game industry and any industry is connections, meeting people first. If you hand your resume off to their human resources people who are taking it, they've got bushel bags of resumes in there. On the other hand, if you meet their lead artist and their lead artist finds you not objectionable, interesting, someone they could work with, that's the relationship you can develop. And you won't hand them your resume then, but you can follow up with questions, praises, comments, and eventually you'll say, all right, well, let's see your portfolio. You show them the fabulous online portfolio you've developed here, and his socks are blown off, and you get hired. But it is more about networking is not an end to itself, but sometimes it feels like that. You're meeting people to meet people, get used to meeting people, get used to being able to present yourself intelligently, cordially, and make a positive impression that can develop into something else down the line. Anyone else want to jump on that?
Yeah, just two things to add. What you really should think about, you think both the short term and the long term. So short term, you don't want to be an idiot. And you really want to think of long term as in you don't know which 2 minutes will pan out in the long run. So you're networking with a lot of people. It feels like you're, shotgun spraying or whatever. But I guess part of it, for me, there's two things. You want to focus on them more than you, actually, because you want to listen and learn. And if you come across as somebody who's listening and learning while you have some cool stuff on the side to eventually show them, that's, I think, the best strategy. And the other thing is to have cool stuff on the side, which is finish a product. If you can make a game on the side with somebody, whether it makes any money at all, completing the product separates you from people who just talk about it. And that's my advice for the network.
I was going to say that a lot of times you go through the hiring area and you see a lot of HR people and you have kind of the experience that Andrew described. But a lot of companies, there are more than just HR people there. The technical director may well be at the hiring booth looking for people and collecting resumes and having a short conversation with them. Goes a long way. Todd Harris used to show up at his booth every year for a long time, right?
Alan Wilson was out there talking to folks at the booth for Tripwire.
Yeah.
Their lead artist, Bill Monk, Dave Hensley both out there.
All right, good question. You get posties. Yes.
I want to add something to the networking because as an attorney in a small business owner, I do a lot of networking. And I'd like to add that if you're going to go out there and put yourself out there, you need to come from a position of strength. Nobody wants to smell blood in the water or smell that you're needy because that's a huge turnoff. I think what's important is listening and learning, like Joe said, and then finding a way that you can be useful to them. So even if it's something small, like looking something up on the web for them, that gives you a reason to follow up with them in the future and build a connection and be a trustworthy source. You want to be useful to them and show them that you can be trusted and reliable before they even give you something bigger. So that's a way that you can build a connection.
And I want to add to that too. So, and definitely you want to come from a place of strength and security. That doesn't mean arrogance. That doesn't mean you're the best things in sliced bread on this earth and you're going to save their company. Big difference between the two. But you're right, no blood in the water, you should be coming from a position of strength. And if you can't figure out how to do that, that's actually job one, I think.
Right, find out what makes yourself unique. Everybody wants to have something somebody else has, and that's normal. But just find out what's your special talent, what makes you unique, and then speak on that when the time is right.
All right, I think we're basically out of time for the panel. We're about 8 o'clock, is that right? All right, so last thing we do, we saved the best goodies for last. Ken,
Everybody run for it.
you want to give away the sword? Quick question, to see who of you have actually played the local team's game. Name one ship type or class in each. What? There we go. Give him a sword. Good catch again. All right, Joe, you want to give out the first of the t-shirts. This is a COPA compliance. Children's Online Protection Act. Joe, you sell games that children play online. I know, I'm going to report.
It's COPA.
COPA, Cabana. So, let's see. Have you actually named the games you make? You just said what you do. You haven't said the names you make. Can anyone here name one of the games that Joe makes?
He doesn't count.
Yeah, you're a ringer. Sure.
That doesn't count.
Let's
The
see.
guy in the white back there.
Did you know what games he
Did
makes?
you say threes or something?
All right, Joe makes a wonderful game called Clutter. What is the and Clutter? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Joe did name what platform they are, where you can find them. What platform are Joe's games on? I think you're okay.
Android, Amazon.
But that doesn't count. That's not a platform. What?
PC?
What did you just say?
I was fanning myself because
What platform?
Are my games on?
PC, Big Fish Games.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. There you go. Now you don't have to pick children. Molly gets to give out the last one.
I'm gonna throw this awfully, so I'm apologizing.
You can walk up and get it too. She said she worked for a company called Thrust. Name one game Thrust has done.
Sammy, you don't count. You work there too.
Oh, come on. It's one of the local companies that does. They give great internships. This is one of the places you should know and be wanting to work at. Or at least interning with or doing contract work. Huh?
Give the question.
If you guys know any brands we worked with pretty much all of them.
Come on, there's an easy guess on that one. It's even been mentioned tonight.
Microsoft.
No?
Local.
That doesn't count enough.
Cartoon Network.
There you go. Well done. You can the hoodie.
Yeah.
He's won enough. He can come up this way. All right. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you all very much for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. We hope you found this of value. We'll have the next meeting. What day is it? Don't say Friday. The 13th of April, yes. Friday the 13th comes on a Tuesday in May.
Yes.
So we do have a little bit more swag up here. I'm going to collect the paperwork. I need these paperwork. These are folks who are soliciting for seats, but the other stuff is free to be given away to folks. So come up and grab things. And if you have questions for our panelists, feel free. This gentleman will be running a play test in back.
Yeah, I want to see the two people that mentioned threes, and if you could come that way with me.
And the rest of you are welcome to hang out, network, or grab pizza, or whatever. So thank you all very much for coming out.